Hey everybody, what's going on? This is Matt, and today I wanted to talk about learning languages after work. And I think this is a really important thing to talk about because, I think a lot of people want to learn languages after work or school, but they're really tired or they're really busy, and it just never really works out as well as they would like. And so I thought I would talk about this, share some tips, some ideas that maybe will help you to be a little bit better about learning languages, especially when you're tired after a long day's work. So the first thing I would talk about actually is just kind of going in a completely different direction. And rather than trying to fight that uphill battle of learning languages after work, try learning languages early in the morning, right? And maybe that involves waking up an hour earlier than you normally would. But basically what this does is two major things, right? The first thing is that you're really going to have a lot less distractions first thing in the morning. So chances are people aren't going to be harassing you with texting or phone calls. Work probably hasn't ramped up that much. You don't really have too many obligations first thing in the morning. And you're going to have this uninterrupted study time, right? So you'll be really concentrated, and chances are you won't get distracted or disrupted when you're doing studying or learning. The second thing is that you're probably the most fresh first thing in the morning as well, right? Gotten your cup of coffee, you've just woken up, and you're probably going to absorb a lot more material than just kind of doing that after work, being really burned out or tired or mentally exhausted, especially if you do something very technical for a living. And so, you're probably going to absorb more. It'll be fresh. You'll be a little bit more motivated. And so that's a huge advantage as well. So, definitely consider trying to do stuff in the morning because there are those two, I think, critical advantages that could help you especially if you're struggling right after work. Now, let's say you don't want to do that. Maybe you really like working out in the morning or want to do that as well. Same idea, right? We can go work out in the morning, and while you're working out, you can listen to the language that you're learning, like podcasts, YouTube videos, something like that. So you're actually knocking out two birds with one stone, which is huge, right? You're getting your daily fitness in, but also you're getting language learning listening in. Alternatively, you could read in between workout sets or something like that. Just something to think about, right? So, if you're really struggling, think about doing stuff in the morning. Now, that being said, right, let's talk actually about learning languages after work, right? So, you have to realize that probably there's just one of a couple of key problems of learning languages after work, right? And you might be suffering from one of them or more than one of them, right? So obviously the first one is that you're tired, right? You're just tired. Maybe you do something very mentally exhausting or physically exhausting, and it's just really hard for you to get concentrated. I think the second thing is that you are just very busy with a lot of obligations, right? Maybe you have to do things with the family or other errands or other things that you would need to take care of. Maybe that's working out, right? So that could be another issue that you're running into. Whatever problem you're running into, I think the first thing to identify is, what is take a really critical look and go, well, why am I not learning languages after work, right? And try to really dig deep into that root problem, because that's ultimately going to help you to, understand what's going on, and then, of course, find the solution afterwards, right? So maybe you think that you're just too tired after work. Okay. If you're too tired, then, obviously we can adapt accordingly, figure out a strategy, right? Maybe it's you have too many obligations going on and it's just there's not enough time to get that investment in. Whatever it is, identify that problem, because that's going to help us a lot later as we go throughout this process, right? Now, I think the first thing to think about is, if you can, right, slowly just try every single day to get a routine after work, right? Because one of the biggest things to kind of combat obligations or just feeling tired after work is just to slowly build a routine up. And I've talked a lot about this in my videos, but it really does help, right? Because if you've gotten like a routine and you've stayed with it for a couple of days or a couple of weeks, it'll be a little bit easier to do with every single passing day, right? Or, if you're really busy with a lot of obligations in life, you've set aside that time, you're used to kind of having that time in there, and, now you slowly and incrementally fit that time into your schedule, right? So, start really small, right? You don't have to set a super ambitious routine, but just say, okay, I'm going to do 5 minutes of language learning after work. Then when you've done that for a week, just do 10 minutes, and then 15 minutes, and then 20, and slowly but surely, you're going to be ramping that routine up and being able to do a lot more language learning, despite being really tired after work. I think the other thing too to think about in this regard is it also will depend on your skill level, right? If you're a beginner, chances are things are going to be, maybe a little bit more tough, a little bit more mentally exhausting than if you're in that intermediate advanced stage. So just something to think about, but slowly ramp up a routine after work, right? That's really critical no matter what you're dealing with. I think the second thing to think about too is that try not to leave any time just unoptimized, right? Try not to leave any time wasted. So for example, a lot of people, and obviously it'll be a little bit different with what's going on currently, but if you have a commute to work or something along those lines, definitely try to use that time, right? Rather than just kind of sitting there and doing nothing, put on some listening, whether that's a podcast in the foreign language that you're learning or, a YouTube video. Get some listening in on your way back home from work, because that's a great way to get extra time in when you have to commute anyways. So that's really critical to start with, right? And that applies for things even before work, right? Like if you're getting ready for the day, put on some earpods or headphones and listen to some language learning material while you're getting ready, right? There's just that free time. Don't leave that, wasted, right? Definitely try to use that time as best as you possibly can. I think that, that's just so critical, right? Because you're stuck in the car, right? Or you're stuck on that commute or stuck getting ready. And, the more time that you put in every single day to language learning, it's almost like you're building a muscle, like you're working out. And so it goes back to that routine idea where, if you are doing more and more language learning every single day, it's going to help you. So you're going to get, it's going to be easier to, do more work after work, right? So, a great way to also kind of build that resistance up is to just, if you're stuck doing something after work, right? Whether that's you have to cook dinner after work or you're on your commute, definitely throw in language learning. And probably the best way to do that is through listening, which a lot of people don't do enough of. So definitely do that. I think the next thing to think about is really, consider taking a break right after work, right? Don't even jump straight into language learning. And really it's going to depend on, what your mind's like, what's going on with your mood. Are you really tired after work? But, if you take a kind of like a nice break right after work, maybe you, just watch some TV or go work out or whatever, it's going to clear your mind. You're going to kind of release that pent up energy from work and just kind of get a little bit more relaxed, a little bit more just refreshed. And then once you're refreshed and you actually go back into doing some language learning for the day, your mind's not going to be as fried because you've been doing work all day. And that means you're going to learn more and you're going to overall in the long run be more effective and more efficient with your time and your language learning progress. I think that the difficult thing with that though is that people lose the motivation once they've gone off work mode, they've relaxed, and then now it's just hard because they have to get that momentum back to actually do language learning after that break right after work, right? And I think that is where the routine really starts to just really be important, right? And whether that's just right after your workout and dinner, just do 5 minutes of language learning or 10 minutes and slowly ramp that up, right? Because we're building a resistance of being able to do things after work despite being tired. And not only that, you're building a routine, which it's obviously helping you to make more progress in language learning in general as well. Now, if you're not dealing with the idea of being tired after work, maybe you're just super busy, super obligated, really try to understand and try to figure out where can I find time, right? Because the key is to really just be really self-critical and analytical in your life and asking yourself, where can I find the time to do this, right? Maybe it's, after all the kids are put to bed. Maybe it's, after you've taken care of all of your other obligations. Really try to find that time, that specific time that you can put in. Even if it's just 5 to 10 minutes, right? That's better than none at all, right? Let's just say that, your time, you don't have this 2-hour block to throw into language learning. Well, maybe it's, sporadically putting 10 minutes here, another 10 minutes there, and then another 10 minutes right before bed, and then you have had 30 minutes of language learning. Now, you might not think that that's very useful because it's split up, but you're actually just, if you stay really hyper-focused for those 10 minutes, it doesn't really matter, right? Honestly, some people probably study for too long in language learning in one session. So even if you're super busy, try to find those small time blocks, whether that's 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 5 minutes, wherever, and try to add those up and find those places and be really self-critical about where you can find them, because that's a great way to get language learning in despite being super busy right after work or even really tired. So this is what I had to say. Sorry if this is a little bit of a long one. Let me know what you think, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.